Good morning, everybody. Before I take questions, I do want to share a few things that I think are critically important. First, an important reminder as we get closer and deeper into holiday season, it's a wonderful and joyous time of the year when we can enjoy the company of friends and family and loved ones and our neighbors. However, we know because of the world that we now live in, we have seen an uptick in respiratory illnesses over the past few weeks, and I want to remind our residents to protect themselves and others from illnesses as we gather for the holidays. We've had an 8.8% positivity rate and 140 COVID-related hospitalizations over the past week, and with a 99 case per day on average is what we're seeing. Whether it's COVID, the flu, RSV, or common cold, just simply don't be careless about your health during the holidays and protect yourself and those that you care about. The best way to protect yourselves and the loved ones, of course, as we participate in celebrations, which are more than likely going to be indoors because it's very cold and weather could not be great as it is right now and for the next few days, is to make sure you follow simple guidelines. Get vaccinated. COVID, flu, all of the vaccines that they say. Tested. In particular, in partnership with the city and health department czar, the Pratt Library is offering a limited number of at-home testing kits and KN95 masks at all locations during operation hours, and you can learn more about the test and tech for test availability before you go at prattlibrary.org. And of course, other testing resources can be found at covid.gov. To prevent the spread of respiratory illnesses by washing your hands often, staying home when sick, cleaning surfaces, covering coughing, wearing a mask, doing all of the things to make sure that we are keeping people healthy as we celebrate them and each other during the holidays. Also, this is a great thing. As a reminder, we know that winter break for our city school students is December 23rd through January the 2nd of 23. While this is a much-deserved break for our young people and our hardworking city school staff, we want to remind everyone that they must keep their guards up over the break so we can have everyone healthy when the school year resumes. Also, I want everyone to know that we have what we call Rec and Parks Winter Break Camp and rec centers across Baltimore City. Baltimore City Recreation Centers will remain open from December 27th to December 30th from 8:30 a.m. to 5:30 p.m. for Winter Break Camp. We want folks to register and find the list of participating rec centers at bcrp.baltimorecity.gov/recreation. Thank you very much. And now we will go to questions. Yeah.
Do you plan on reinstating a mask mandate with the uptick in COVID?
So we're always looking at that. We're going to be watching the numbers, and I'll be talking with Dr. D and our hospital and other advisors and making the decision based on the science and the data. We know that notoriously 2 years ago around this time we'd have been doing this outside or even on Zoom, right? We will make the best decisions in the safety of the residents as that information comes.
So do you recommend wearing masks right now in the city?
So what I would say to folks is, if you're going to be, especially as you're gathering with your family, if folks are coming in from out of town, doing these things, make sure, one, that when you're traveling that you get tested when you make it to your destination or folks get to you. And two, when you're around groups of people, try to wear a mask whenever you can. Now, I get it, it's the holidays. Folks are going to be eating. It's tough to do that, right? But that's why all the other precautions that I mentioned are critically important as well.
I'm going to pivot a little bit next time. This one is from our education team. The Bradford's project case is being heard today.
Mm-hmm.
You may know the NAACP and ACLU is seeking to increase school funding by hundreds of $millions. They say it's needed because we're being underfunded. Where do you stand on that, sir?
Well, I can't talk about open litigation in court, but I think we all know through the Blueprint for Maryland's Future and others that there have been efforts underway to increase school funding, because we know city schools has not, and others in Maryland hadn't been getting their true due.
Just go back to it. So, no, are you recommending mask, or yes, you recommend that mask?
No, what I'm saying is if you're comfortable, you should wear one, especially when you're around large groups of people gathering for the holidays.
Mayor Smith, looking at, I know this conversation has been happening for a couple of days now, but can you explain why did you return the campaign contribution you received from JP Grant when Mayor Pugh was in office, but you're not returning it now?
Yeah, again, I'll say what I said last week, Mackenzie. The comments that I said last week are what I said, and that's going to be my comment on it. Nothing else is going to
But
be
that
said.
didn't really answer the question.
It
Why-
did.
Thanks,
why would you
Mackenzie,
do
that's
that?
it.
The comments are what I said last week are the comments that I'm going to make on the issue.
And then just looking to a different question,
Yeah.
do you support Question K?
So again, I think you and I have talked about this for a long time. I am in support of term limits. I voted in support of term limits. Period. And more importantly, the most important thing, it doesn't even matter what anybody thinks, Mackenzie. The residents of Baltimore said yes. We have term limits. We're going to have them moving forward, starting with that cycle. Period. And everyone should just adjust accordingly to that.
So where do you stand on Councilman Ryan Dorsey's bill that would ask voters to repeal it again?
Well, I haven't seen the councilman's bill, and what will happen with that is it will go through a process. And if it goes to the ballot and the voters decide that they undo it, then they undo it. But right now, the way that I operate on what the voters have said to me as the mayor of Baltimore, and right now they said they want term limits.
Do you think that sends the wrong message to voters after they just approved this and they say that they wanted term limits?
I think that a council member can introduce any piece of legislation that they have, and things happen like that all the time. It's a legislative process for a reason, and that's why charter amendments have to go to voters, because they'll make the decision. It's not up for you and I to decide.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
you reached the midpoint of your first term here. Kind of had a chance to ask you, how do you rate your job performance so far? And is there anything you want to do differently going forward, or perhaps refocus on in the next 2 years?
Yeah, so I'm a tough grader, right? So I'm that person that I would ask when my teacher gave me an A, I would say I should have been an A- because I think I could have did these things better because I'm an athlete. I look for perfection in everything that I do. So what I would say to you, I would rate myself at a B minus if I have to rate. It's not about changing anything. It's about working. It's about going deeper and going stronger and going harder in everything, pushing myself and everyone else to further limits. But I think also when you think about that, when you're talking about quote unquote grading myself, you have to also think about all the other things and other people, government, elected officials that my job and other jobs rely on. And now, in a few weeks, getting new partners, especially on the public safety front, and both the governor and the state's attorney, we know that we'll be able to unlock a lot of the progress that has been happening, but may have been stifled on other ends. For example, as I always give to you guys, with the police department seizing 2,482 guns this year, which is a 13% increase over last year, 458 of those which are ghost guns. That's a 41% increase of ghost gun seizures over last year. We know the productivity is there, and for those who may be wondering, of course, that's with 500 less cops. So that's not less productivity. That's more productivity than we had in 2014 because we have less officers doing it. What I'm always about is how can I be better in every facet of everything that I do? That's what matters. That's what I think about every day. Every time I make a decision and see the impacts of that later on, much like a football coach, I'm analyzing it at 2, 3 in the morning about ways to improve.
Sorry, could you shed any light on the ride sharing issues we're having in the city? Do you in the department think that it's organized? Is it random? What's the city trying to do about it?
I'll do some basics and then turn it over to Deputy Commissioner Worley. What I'll say about this is that we know that these carjacking things are patterns and crews, right? We know that. But what I want you all and the residents to know is that this police department has been going out and arresting and making arrests of these people. What we have to have a conversation about is how is it that when we, in this pattern and the previous patterns that we had in neighborhoods like Ednor Gardens and in Northwest Baltimore, is that whenever we make this arrest, it's the same group of people that we previously made arrests for. Why is it that folks has multiple carjacking arrests, other robbery arrests, and we're seeing them back out on the street so quickly? We have to have the deep conversation about what happens after police action. Why is it that people aren't held or put in something that will help rehabilitate them? And in some cases, because we're talking about young people, that rehabilitation must also include their family, because I'm sick and tired of talking about the same individuals over and over. I sure as hell don't want my residents to be being terrorized by the same people over and over. But we have to have the conversation beyond what's the police department, what's the police commission, what's the mayor doing, because our detectives are out here busting their butts, making these arrests, only to have to go after the same crews several months later. Mr. Deputy?
Thank you, sir. Yes, we're very concerned about the rideshare pattern. We do know it is organized. It's usually about 5 to 6 suspects. They rob a rideshare driver, and then they take their app and start answering calls. So the thing that we put out with our public information is that when you order a rideshare, make sure you not only have the correct car, but make sure the driver is the person who's listed on the photo, because that's what they're doing. Then they're robbing the individuals as they come to the Uber or Lyft or whatever ride share it is. The good thing is we've made 9 arrests in these cases. All of them are young adults. They're not adults, they're juveniles or youth. 5 cases have been closed, 3 in the city, 2 in the county, so the county's experienced the same thing. We are working with our county partners as well as our federal partners to try to put an end to this. Now, we did have 2 yesterday. I know there was 2 rideshare robberies yesterday. Neither one of those were the part of the pattern. So we have a team of people who look at every single robbery that comes out. We put it out on our messaging, our Evertel messaging. So within minutes, we know what car has been taken, what route it's taken, and what they're doing is they're moving around the city. It's not just confined to a small area. They may take the vehicle in the northeast and go to the southern to commit the next robbery, and then move to the northwest. They're moving. And so we utilize all of our tools. We have a lot of technology that we can use to try to track the vehicles, and our men and women have done a phenomenal job. I believe we've arrested 5 individuals yesterday in 2 different cars that were carjacked. That was just yesterday.
Just a quick follow-up on that, because it is such a big concern. Do you recommend people not use the rideshare services right now until this is under control?
No, I would recommend them to continue to use the rideshare, because we can't allow the criminals to cause us to adjust our behavior. You just have to be safe when you do it. Make sure you have the correct car, make sure you have the correct driver before you get in the car, and just go about your normal business. There are so many ride shares that take place during the city that this is a small number of them, but they're very violent when they do take over the car. And we don't want any of our citizens to become victims, but we also don't want them to have to adjust their everyday life, because there are some young men and women out there that are creating havoc in those cases.
And then last thing before we leave, what I'll say is you will hear from the deputy again. And these individuals that they are arresting, they're not unfamiliar to BPD. So for you all in the media, I think it would be great if we start to put pressure on other parts of the system and do the follow-ups about what happens when they are making these arrests, because we can't continue to just simply ask the question, what's the police department doing if they've arrested these individuals for multiple similar incidents consistently?
Last question. The city has a pilot program that assigns a helper to senior fire officials. How long is that program going to go for?
Yeah, so this is the program where we're doing lieutenants and some other folks and captains to work with the battalion chiefs to be on scene to help with operations, right? Based on one of the reports that we had come out about improving how we're doing those operations. That the intent is to have that pilot run now, and we're looking to have permanent positions as we move forward into the next fiscal year. Thank you, everybody.